Well, hello, that's me again, and today I will do a little bit of the headlines review, if you wish, because there are some headlines which will need to be need to be discussed, and I will start immediately from this now well circulated, primarily pushing by all kinds of Western media. It's the statement by Defense Minister of Ukraine that they have 1 million army now and they're going to counterattack and take back all the south of former Ukraine, but now Russians control, Kherson, Zaporozhye, and all kinds of those places. So yeah, good luck. I mean, sure. Yeah, I don't know why they didn't state that they have 2 million, but obviously Nikolaev, the city of Nikolaev, is now very, has a very heavy presence of the armor and whatever was left and troops, but yeah, sure. I don't know why they didn't say that they have 2 million, but you know, it's Ukraine, so most of it, the same as it is now in the combined West, the wars, economy, everything, it exists in the virtual world where people do not have to do any practical actions which have the, you know, kind of create causality and have the practical outcome effect, because as I already stated, Ukrainization of the Western politics, including from the United States, is absolutely complete now. Ukraine 2.0 is the United States now, and obviously Western Europe, and hey, let them deal with this. But of course, it's not only that which needs to be discussed, and certainly there will be very many, you know, joyful people, American generals stating that, yeah, you see, there's 1 million army, you know, just going to attack Russians and they will die, you know, and things like that. But here's the issue which needs to be discussed seriously, because not that Lech Walesa himself is that important figure. He has all those boxes checked, like a Nobel Prize for Peace. He definitely has no education. He's a former plumber, and he's the guy who actually contributed mightily for the industrialization of Poland, for example. But now Walesa, who is basically nothing more than foreign intelligence people's stooge and the man of a very limited intellectual capabilities, he wants to reduce Russia to less than 50 million people. So the guy obviously is a very, very big fan of the Nazi Plan Ost, which wanted to actually reduce Russia to, yeah, basically 30-40 million people, and most of them absolutely illiterate, and then use them on all kinds of agricultural work, and basically serve and to be used as servants in a great, you know, Third Reich. And that's what Walesa wants. So, and the point here is not that Walesa, he's basically nobody. It's the fact that he articulated the point of view and desires of many people in the Western elites, especially Anglo-Saxon elites. There are many people in Washington, D.C. and London and in Berlin and elsewhere in Europe who would love to see many Russians, you know, basically, you know, corralled into the concentration camps, you know, so to see Russia being broken up and basically having their hands on their resource or Russia's resources, and see Russians basically eventually just altogether just goddamn die, you know. So if you think so that it's just Walesa, no, there are many people like this. There are many people in Pentagon who think like that, in CIA, obviously in US Congress, and the same goes for any government in the Western Europe. And that is why they are so desperate right now when they basically begin to understand that the war is lost, and as any people who do not have any capability to produce any kind of practical results which are beneficial to anybody except for themselves, and even here they fail miserably, is obviously their, I mean, silent rage. And they hate Russians, I mean, profoundly. I mean, it's just racial. They have this freaking Russian race, you know, they Slavic, you know, subhumans and things of this nature. So, and Walesa just merely articulated the desires and wet dreams of many people in Washington and in London and in Berlin, what have you. And that brings us to another guy. I mean, he was a big honcho. He was even Supreme Commander in Europe, NATO Commander in Europe. It is, of course, Mr. Breedlove. And Mr. Breedlove evidently has some issues, I would say, with operations, and because he is talking about that, and this is from the Newsweek, he's talking about that Ukraine has to chance the deal devastating blow to Russia, because now, as he stated, Ukraine has those, Wunderwaffe, American Wunderwaffe, anti-shipping missile Harpoon. It's UGM, AGM, RGM-84, with UAR just being different types of the launch. A is, for example, for the aerial launch, and U is for the, underwater. That's, for example, Virginia and Los Angeles class submarines, they carry these harpoons. And I want to make immediately the point, Mr. Breedlove just joined the ranks of other people from the American top brass, such as Mr. Keane, General Keane, such as Mr. Petraeus, people who get those, paychecks from this fraudulent Institute for the Study of War, which is a neoconish cabal by yet another branch of the Kagan family. And they continue to parade themselves like morons, honestly. They're sophomoric. It's astounding. And even when you consider the fact that obviously there is a huge deal of the operation of influence going on, and narratives, for example, about Russia losing war have been already ready even before this special military operation started, these people evidently have no professional self-respect whatsoever, because even after the third or fourth week, it was clear where it was all going in Ukraine, but they still continue even today to provide this completely false narrative, complete military BS, which contradicts any common sense. Forget about real military science. And Breedlove now joined these people because, and let me explain why, he thinks that Harpoon, and obviously we're talking about those Danish harpoons, allegedly. Some of them have been already actually annihilated by Russian armed forces, but let's say, yeah, they have probably four, maybe 8 launchers, or 8 containers, so they can have like 4 or 8 harpoons. And let me explain what is wrong with Breedlove and his wet dreams of attacking the Crimean Bridge. Apart from the fact of course, just calling directly for the attack of this on the civilian infrastructure, but it's normal for them. Many American military people, they, just love to, attack somebody with impunity. And here's the issue. The actual range of the Harpoon is about 220 kilometers. There are rumors and news even couple of months ago that there are no new type of harpoons which will have the range of 500 kilometers. Well, maybe there are, but obviously these are not the types of the missiles United States or whoever wants to transfer to Ukraine. So we will assume, well, with a very high degree of probability, almost nearing 100%, that what Ukraine might get is obviously those traditional maximum range of 220 kilometers, which is about 137 miles. And as you can see yourself, I show here the radius of this exactly 220 kilometers, at which any kind of launcher of the armed forces of the Ukraine has to approach to launch and have a chance to even hit any kind of single section of the Crimean Bridge, to put it out of commission, maybe for a couple days, maybe for a week or so, because it will be repaired immediately. And of course, even 4 or 8 harpoons will hardly do any serious damage, because obviously here we get into the salvo equations, we get into the total saturation of this area with Russian air defense and Russian Air Force, and so the issue of liquor evidently is not known to Mr. Breedlove, who thinks that you can, using 4 harpoons, for example, you can do something to Crimean Bridge. But hey, here it is. But look at this range. As you can see yourself, the whole radius, so to speak, draws the circumference, which is completely within Russian control or Russian territory and controlled by all kinds of sensors and air defense complexes. And fact is, even S-400 has the range which is longer than the range of the Harpoons. And believe me, there are a lot of S-400s, Panzers, and even S-300V4s, which are concentrated around this area. And of course, in terms of the area of the sea of the Black Sea, it is also well controlled by Russian system of the sensors. This all ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance complex, and of course the Black Sea fleet has a really good hand on that. So of course, if Mr. Breedlove wants to put those, let's say, 4 launchers or some fishing boat, I don't know how he will integrate it to it, but again, so that tells you that those people already are there in the silent range. They don't understand that they parade themselves as amateurs, and I'm beginning to suspect that some of them are actually. And this escapade by Mr. Breedlove obviously shows a complete ignorance of the matters of the modern warfare and what Russia is. And maybe they do understand it. I don't know, you know, but I think so they don't still completely. They cannot wrap their brains around, and there are many reasons to believe that many of them are scrambling now and trying to study Russian special military operations. And actually there were some reports about them. Yeah, they study this operation, they make their, you know, conclusions. And how do you transform the armed forces which have been existing on the number of the false, totally obsolete fighting doctrines and technological doctrines? Beats me. But hey, let them try, obviously. But evidently I don't think so technologically even United States can catch up anymore. And I'm on record, I wrote a number of books, I write another one, and read my lips, and I am very specific about this. This is not some kind of wet dreams. I warned about it for very many years ago, guys. And the United States, and that means NATO, lost arms race to Russia. And there is nothing really to talk about in this particular case, because, I mean, the United States, for example, doesn't have pretty much most weapons which Russia already uses in, for example, Ukraine. I'm talking about what are called the battlefield weapons, like tactical weapons, which are, be them smart munitions, standoff munitions. And when you look at the some weapons like Germes, which is a 4.5 Mach 4.5 anti-tank missile, which actually can fly to 100 kilometers, or you have this other types of weapons which are also, you know, GLONASS guided or guided by different kinds of you know, systems. It's just like, yeah, and this is just tactical battlefield, so to speak, you know. It's all those, you know, precisely military porn domain, which all those fanboys love. You know, they love to talk about this anti-missile, you know, anti-tank complexes. They love to talk about those, you know, guns, you know, small arm mines, what have you. You know, maybe they masturbate a little bit to helicopters. But obviously the serious situation is what I was talking about in my previous 2 videos about Wunderwaffe. And I specifically stated, I kind of defined that Wunderwaffe is the one which actually has the most profound effect on the outcome of the battle or war. War. And war is a little bit different than a battle, as you already know. War pursues, you know, those political objectives, to change the regime, to achieve some rearrangement of the political order. And that's war, guys. That's not just campaign. And wars, of course, can take a lot of different forms. But if you ask me now, and I spoke, yeah, there's no real Wunderwaffe. Well, of course there is not. There are some obviously outstanding weapons, such as I already stated. Hypersonic, the plethora of hypersonic weapons which Russia deploys now and uses successfully is astounding. it has a massive effect, but it's just not the whole thing. You know, it's still, you have to all incorporate this in the system and look at it and in terms of the system. But if you would ask me what is the weapon which comes closest to wonder weapon, even considering the fact that all those absolutely amazing hypersonic weapons, I would say that we need to really go and look at Belgorod, which is the submarine, which is the project 09852, which have been introduced to Russian Navy, transferred to Russian Navy a few days ago. And this is this monster sub which carries this very important torpedo, quote unquote, of course. And this torpedo today is known, it used to be known as Status 6 Canyon, and today we all know it as a Poseidon. And the totally redesigned and remade former Oscar II project, Project 949, which was transformed into the carriers of those outstanding weapons, they can carry 6 of those torpedoes, so to speak. Those torpedoes are actually not quite torpedoes. They are autonomous drones, which can move with the speed of 70 knots. It's 70 nautical miles per hour. And that means they can outrun anything, for example, U.S. Navy has in terms of its anti-submarine warfare weapons, including all kinds of the torpedoes, including, you know, Mark 48, what have you, Mark 51, they're just not going to catch it, you know, and they're not going to catch it, not even in terms of, you know, trying to catch up from the behind, but if you look at the front course angles, the Poseidon, and with its maneuverability, it can also outmaneuver them and simply just outrun them. It's simple as that. And the significance of the Poseidon is not in the fact that it can carry, some people say it's 100 megaton, which is stunning, the nuclear warhead with the incredibly disastrous consequences for any coastline anywhere in the world, not least of which will be, as people say, some people say it's going to be 500 meters high, some others say it's going to be 150 meters high, so it's between 1500 and 450 feet high tsunami. Either way, it's nightmarish, you know, but if you take away those exotic, but yeah, very horrendous, you know, consequences of the nuclear exchange, for example, between Russia and the United States, we need to consider the fact that Poseidon is perfect with its amount of high explosives. And we're talking about non-nuclear, but conventional warhead. We don't know how much of it it can carry, but, and again, the information is fairly, you know, scarce about it, and there are some speculations by H.I. Sutton and other intelligence agencies, you know, around the world. But I think so. We're looking at a couple of metric tons of, at least, of the high explosives, which can be carried by Poseidon. Some people say it's 10,000 nautical miles distance. Who knows? I mean, evidently it has no limits. It can travel anywhere, and it travels at the depth of more than 1,000 meters, which is more than 3,000 feet, and it's absolutely invulnerable to any kind of anti-submarine warfare activity and even detection. And when it surfaces to, you know, strike, so if you look even at conventional configuration of this Poseidon, let alone 6 of them, it means the complete death of the traditional carrier strike group. Because that thing, and we're looking at obviously serious artificial intellect programming. I don't know how much autonomous it is. Obviously, when carrying nuclear warhead, I don't think so. It's that autonomous. Obviously, Russia wants to retain the control of this weapon. So, but yeah, I mean, that thing goes in, just surfaces under any kind of the ship and just blows itself. And yeah, if you want to see what 2 or maybe more metric tons of high explosives, and especially directed explosion, can do to a ship, even the monstrous supertanker, let alone 100,000 tons CVN, you know, nuclear aircraft carrier, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to sink, believe me. So it's so that's the type of the weapon, and obviously Russia is not basically stopping itself on just one hull. of these carriers. Belgorod goes to serve on the at the Northern Fleet in Russia, and of course there is now another one. I cannot guarantee that it's a remake of Project 949A. I think so. It's something else altogether called Khabarovsk is being built for Pacific Fleet, and evidently Russia will have few of them, so both on the Atlantic and Pacific theaters, and that pretty much means to get, well, especially when combined with zircons, and especially submarine carried zircons 3M22 and its future versions which will exceed 1500-kilometer range. It's the end of the navies as we know it. So, okay, so are they Wunderwaffe? Sort of, not quite, because in the end, even this Wunderwaffe has to be incorporated in the complex system of the C4ISR, command, control, communications, computer, you know, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, and of course, that thing lays beyond the just merely technological expertise and technological innovations which went into creation of those systems, of those weapons. Those are pretty standard, pretty traditional, which have been in development since 50s actually, and now you have this complex of the space-based, surface and ground-based, air-based and underwater-based sensors and systems of the control and command and control, which control those operations. And of course that in itself, when combined with this, then we can say, yeah, this is approaching the status of the Wunderwaffe, sort of, you know. But by and in and of themselves, obviously, they're just magnificent technological achievement, but they are nothing without the obvious system. And as I already stated, not for once, in real war, these are networks, these are systems which fight, not just some kind of weapons, you know, those, you know, fanboys, you know, world of we have couple javelins here and couple S-400s there. No, it doesn't work like this. It works obviously as a system, as and network, and those are much more complex to create than what you think even to create, let's say, zircon. You know, these are much more massive in their scale and scope undertaking, and that takes already, as I already write about it for many years, that takes a very serious economy, a very serious scientific school, research and development, and industries, all those machine building complexes. So that's what I wanted to tell you today about those sort of headlines. But you know, what I want to say obviously now is this. I need to say thank you to one of the friend of mine from the blog who pointed me out to the statement by Vladimir Putin, which he made in on the 7th of July, and which he was basically making this statement when talking to people, young people primarily, who basically won the competition which called Leaders of Russia. Many of those people will become the Russian management elite, and they will be omnipresent in government and elsewhere. But look what he stated there when he was responding to one lady who said, "Oh, I'm getting my PhD in political science." Remember, I stated for many years, I wrote in my blog for more than 8 years, I spoke about this in all my books, and I continue to speak about it, that political science is not science. This politology thing is baloney. It's a fraudulent field. And here's what Vladimir Putin stated. Russian President Vladimir Putin doubted that political science can be classified as a science because it is difficult to find a research method that is unique to this field of knowledge. He shared this assessment on Thursday at a meeting with the winners of the 4th season of the Leaders of Russia contest. Hearing that one of the contestants was going to defend her PhD thesis in the field of political science, the head of state was surprised. In the field of political science? Is there such a science, political science? Hearing an affirmative answer, he added with a laugh, a moot point. Yes, I understand that it has always been believed that in order for a certain field of knowledge to claim to be called a science, it must have its own subject of study and its own research method. In political science, it is somehow difficult to find a research method inherent only to it. Putin shared his vision of the situation. For many years, I was speaking about the fact that all those political science field, which is omnipresent in, for example, in the United States. Look at the many those programs in the from even Ivy League. Look at the U.S. Congress. Look at the U.S. government. Look at those think tanks. They are saturated with those political so-called scientists. And those are people who do not have any systemic knowledge. Systemic, I stress it, in anything. And that is why when I read, and I read, believe me, a lot of it, that's probably which drives me to the point of desperation. I read so many of the Western political scientists spewing about the warfare and basically technology of warfare, that at some point of time I absolutely became insensitized basically to it, because I stopped reading it. It's all crap. I mean, people who write this, they don't understand what they're writing in. And then they don't understand the real economy. They don't understand the real geopolitics or what we understand under it, because it has very little to do today with what Mackinder actually saw in it. Obviously, Edward Luttwak with this fake science of geoeconomics, it's another BS which people get degrees. And that is why combined West finds itself today where it is, which is a disintegration and complete collapse of its main institution and cultural degeneration, is because, to a large extent, what happened to it was driven by those absolutely white-bore idiotic theories developed by all those political scientists, quote-unquote, ranging from Mr. Fukuyama, who is a joke, and this person still is being referred to, and by others, from Zbigniew Brzezinski. Even Huntington failed pretty much in everything he predicted. But statistically, they should have got something right by now. They got nothing. And what I'm saying, and I continue to say, America as a whole, American governmental institutions, even Pentagon, let alone those people of political science who basically advise everything, from White House down to US Congress, to Pentagon, to CIA, most of them, especially people with political science degrees, they have no clue on the subject. They have no clue on the subject of Russia, and they have no clue on the subject of the modern war and how it is fought. They simply don't teach this in the United States and in the West. And I have to say, it is one thing when me, insignificant me, I mean, tries to convey this point, totally another when Vladimir Putin, arguably the greatest statesman of the 21st century, actually not arguably, he is, I mean, let's face the facts, says this. It definitely bears a lot of weight, and that is why there is nothing to discuss even with the most Western, or for that matter, Russian political scientists. They are bimbos. They don't understand anything. They just have those ridiculous political theories, but you know what? Most of those political theories can be self-taught with any person with the minor didactic ability within 1 year, completely just reading the books. That's the worth of this so-called science. So that's what I wanted basically to conclude my message to you today. And as always, first, I want to express my profound gratitude to my wonderful sponsors who allow me to continue with my videos. And if you guys like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And of course, those who can afford, please support me on the Patreon. So that will be it for today, guys. And I'll speak to you sometime later this week, I hope. Bye-bye.